The Weary Dunlop Museum, a semi-abandoned museum in the Thai jungle. August 2025. Colonel Sir Ernest Edward Weary Dunlop, AC CMG OBE, 12th July 1907 to 2nd July 1993, was an Australian surgeon who was renowned for his leadership while being held prisoner by the Japanese during the Second World War. Dunlop had been a school cadet, and he continued his part-time army service until 1929, when his service ceased under pressure from his pharmacy studies. He re-enlisted in 1935 and was commissioned into the Australian Army Medical Corps on July 1st with the rank of captain. In May 1938, Dunlop left Australia for London on a ship, where he served as her medical officer. In London, he attended St. Bartholomew's Medical School, and in 1938 became a Fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons. The distinguished medical members Dunlop met in London, Professor Grey Turner and Sir Thomas Dunhill, impressed him with their dedication to their job, and he resolved to emulate their example. During the Second World War, Dunlop was appointed to medical headquarters in the Middle East, where he developed the mobile surgical unit. In Greece, he liaised with forward medical units and Allied headquarters. And at Tobruk, he was a surgeon until the Australian divisions were withdrawn for home defense. His troopship was diverted to Java in an ill-planned attempt to bolster the defenses there. On February 26, 1942, he was promoted to temporary lieutenant colonel. Dunlop became a Japanese prisoner of war in 1942 when he was captured in Bandung, Java, together with the hospital he was commanding. Because of his leadership skills, he was placed in charge of prisoner of war camps in Java and was later briefly transferred to Changi in Singapore. In January 1943, he commanded the first Australians sent to work on the Thai segment of the Burma-Thailand Railway, where prisoners of the Japanese were being used as forced laborers to construct a strategically important supply route between Bangkok and Rangoon. Conditions in the railway camps were primitive and horrific. Food was totally inadequate, beatings were frequent and severe, and there was no medical supplies. Tropical diseases were rampant, and the Japanese required a level of productivity that would have been difficult for fully fit and properly equipped men to achieve. Along with a number of other Commonwealth medical officers, Dunlop's dedication and heroism became a legend among prisoners. A courageous leader and compassionate doctor, he restored morale in these terrible prison camps and jungle hospitals. Dunlop defied his captors, gave hope to the sick, and eased the anguish of the dying. His example was one of the reasons why Australian survival rates were the highest. He became, in the words of one of his men, the author Donald Stewart, a lighthouse of sanity in a universe of madness and suffering. The journey began with meeting our friend and guide, Dan Manners, at the Kanchanaburi Death Railway Museum. We are headed to Weary Dunlop Park, which is a Thailand-Burma Death Railway Memorial Museum. After a fairly long drive, Dan led us into the museum area. It is somewhat overgrown and semi-abandoned, as Weary Dunlop passed away 2 decades ago. The footbridge to the museum area, which is maintained by a few elderly gardeners, Yasko following Dan over the bridge. Entering the museum area. The first information board, Weary Dunlop Peace Park, Aspiration. An Old Mate Along the Track by Warrant Officer Stephen Reed, RAAF, Australian Embassy, Thailand. The notorious Burma-Thailand Railway, which was constructed using the forced labor of thousands of Allied prisoners of war and captive Asian laborers during World War II, is dotted with stories of atrocious conditions and agonizing death. But there are also truly amazing stories of heroism, survival, and mateship under the most arduous of conditions. One of these stories of enduring friendship actually began many years after the end of the war. During one of his return journeys to Thailand, 1983, Sir Edward Weary Dunlop, himself a survivor of the Burma-Thailand Railway, along with a group of veteran POWs, returned to the railway. Kun Kanit fondly recounts that during a long-tail boat trip along the minor tributary of the River Kwai, the Kwai Noi, members of the group approached a houseboat on the river. On board the houseboat was Mr. Kanit and his wife, Unjai. When some of the veterans began inquiring about buying some beer to slake their thirst, Mr. Kanit responded, "We don't sell beer here, but we would be happy to welcome you with beer if you would like to come up to our house." A second boat soon followed, with Weary Dunlop on board. And all the veterans in the group were soon enjoying the company and hospitality of Kun Kanit and his family at the riverside resort known as Home Food Tui. That first meeting marked the beginning of a remarkable friendship which would evolve between Weary and Kun Kanit. On 24th April 1994, in accordance with his wishes to become one with the land that he loved, Weary Dunlop's ashes were scattered over a beautifully decorated Thai ceremonial boat, which was carried by his sons to the banks of the Kwai Noi. Guests paid their final respects by placing jasmine garlands on the boat that was then cast adrift from the banks of Home Food Tui. To commemorate their remarkable bond, Kun Kanit then dedicated 15 acres of his resort as the Weary Dunlop Park, which now stands as a private memorial to the man Kun Kanit continues to describe as a dear friend, an inspirational human being, and a testament to the art of survival under harsh and brutal conditions. The park also contains a wide range of private collections and displays, which are a valuable source of information on the history of the Burma-Thailand Railway. Each year, on the eve of Anzac Day, Kun Kanit continues to host a dinner for those returning to the area to attend the dawn service conducted in Hellfire Pass. A visit to Home Food Tui and the Weary Dunlop Park has virtually become a standard inclusion in the itinerary of the official defense visits to Thailand. In addition to quietly sponsor the educational needs of hundreds of local children, Kun Kanit continues to extend his kindness and hospitality to all those who pass through, providing a valuable insight into the historical significance of the area. Over the years, many members of the Australian and New Zealand Defence Forces have had the privilege of personally meeting Kun Kanit. Each would attest that this philanthropic and compassionate man, in himself a remarkable human being, and indeed an old mate along the track. This is the first and main display building. All the buildings are replicas of POW camp buildings during the construction of the Burma Thailand Railway. Going up the stairs and entering the first building, a statue of Sir Edward Weary Dunlop. Sir Edward Weary Dunlop, Weary Dunlop Park, in memory of Sir Edward Weary Dunlop, a great friend of our family and a great citizen of the human race, the Wanachotes. The first day of friendship. Most long-tailed boats passing our somewhat grand boathouse, Sri Kwai, as it was named, meaning the glory of the river, would reduce speed to have a better look. But this one, the day in 1985, seemed to be much slower than the others. When it came closer, I stood up as a gesture of welcome, and it stopped. "How much is beer here?" I was asked. Looking at them all, surprisingly, mostly old but strong, I smiled and answered, "We don't sell beer here, but we would be happy to welcome you with a beer if you would like to come up." My spontaneous response worked. They all came up and beer was served. A few minutes later, another boat arrived with others, again, mostly old and strong. One was Sir Edward Weary Dunlop. That was the first happy day we enjoyed together. We have enjoyed ourselves together every year until now, mostly at home food tui and a few times in Australia. From them, I have learnt the story of the Railway of Death and cooperative magic the then prisoner of war camp came up with. To survive the horrors of war, sickness, and starvation. Most of all, I met Sir Edward Weary Dunlop, who later came to be my friend and my first present-day hero. This memorial of the Death Railway will keep these facts alive forever. We have allocated about 15 acres of land up on the hills for this project. It is now under construction, and it will continue. Any contributions to the display would be greatly appreciated. Home Fu Tui. River Kwai, Sayok, Kanchanaburi, Thailand. Kanit Wanachote. Here is an Australian flag, signed by members of the visiting Australian Veteran Group. An assortment of photographs of the social gatherings when they met in this location, including the memorial boat carrying Weary Dunlop's ashes after he died. His ashes were put in this beautiful boat. All guests paid their last respects by laying a white flower, jasmine, in the boat. A Scottish piper flew from Australia to give the moment at dusk a great impression. The map shows the geography of the River Kwai, the Kwai Noi River. At dusk on April 24th, 1994, Weary Dunlop's ashes were scattered over a beautifully decorated ceremonial boat. Each of the 200 guests paid their final respects according to Thai tradition by laying a jasmine flower in the boat. The candles lit, Weary Dunlop's 2 sons carried the boat to the pier and lowered it into the waters of the River Kwai Noi. Turning slowly in the current, the boat was followed by 10 other kratongs as it drifted down the river, accompanied by the sound of bagpipes in the evening air. In the darkening light and in the far distance, the boat sank slowly out of sight. Weary's wish to become one with the land he loved had been fulfilled. The 2 sons of Weary Dunlop floating some of his ashes down the river Kwai Noi from Home Fu Tui on the 24th of April, 1994. One Japanese girl joined the ceremony with tearful eyes. She stayed with us throughout the sad night at Home Food Tui. Honour given to Home Food Tui by Australian government and people. Now know you that, with the approval of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of Australia and Sovereign of the Order of Australia, I have been pleased to award you the Medal of the Order of Australia in the General Division. I do by these presents authorize you to hold and enjoy the dignity of such an award together with honorary membership in the said order and all privileges thereunto appertaining. Given at Government House, Canberra, under the seal of the Order of Australia, this 23rd day of September, 2009, by Her Excellency's Command, Stephen Brady, Secretary of the Order of Australia. The next parts of the museum pertain to the Death Railway and history surrounding it. A 1945 War Grave Search Team photo of a bridge near Nike Station. A 1945 War Grave Search Team photo of a large embankment and two-tiered timber bridge near Nike Station. Members of the Allied War Grave Search Team looking at the three pagodas in 1945. Aerial photo of the Tamuang area showing a British POW camp with Union Jack taken on the 25th August 1945 after the surrender on August 15th, 1945. Aerial photo of the Bam Khao area along the railway showing possible work camp on 3rd January 1945. A 1945 War Grave Search Team photo of a two-tiered timber bridge near 18 Kilo Camp, Burma, at Alupok, about 100 feet high. Aerial photo of the Lin Thin area along the railway showing a possible work camp on 18th January 1945. Aerial photo of Ban Pong area showing two possible POW camps on 3rd January 1945. Aerial photo of the Ban Nuang area showing two possible work camps on 3rd January 1945. A map showing the railway, including existing and abandoned sections. This map shows the location of Home Food Tui, near Nam Tok. It is more than halfway between Kanchanaburi and Hellfire Pass. The Burma-Thailand Railway. Within 70 days of the Japanese landing in Malaya on 8th December 1941, Singapore had fallen. By March, the Netherlands East Indies had been overrun. By June, the whole of Burma was in Japanese hands. The long sea route to Rangoon to supply and reinforce the Japanese army in Burma for its march on Delhi was vulnerable to attack. The Imperial Japanese Army decided to take a shortcut by joining existing railway lines in Burma and from Singapore to Bangkok. Work was begun from both ends. In Thailand, it would follow the Mai Klong and the Kwai Noi rivers before entering Burma through the Three Pagodas Pass. In June 1942, 600 English POWs left Singapore to build a staging camp in Ban Pong, the start of the railway on the Thailand side. 3,000 Australians already in Burma to work on airfields moved to Than Yu Zayat to begin construction on the Burma end. The first 55 kilometers of the railway in Thailand was built over the flat Mai Klong Plain. At Canterbury, the river was bridged so the railway could follow the Kwai Noi Valley. A timber bridge was completed in February 1943 and the steel one brought from Java in April. Both bridges were repeatedly bombed. In February 1945, both bridges were hit, but the wooden one was back in operation by April. On 24th June 1945, British bombers put both bridges out of commission for the rest of the war. Many POWs died during the attacks. In one raid on Non Pladuk, 96 were killed and 300 wounded. In the last 2 months of 1943, the Japanese moved 17,000 tons over the railway. They moved an average of 11,700 tons a month for the first half of 1944 and 18,750 tons in the second. The average dropped to 3,580 tons a month for the last 8 months of the war. The grand total was 228,550 tons. After the war, the British Army dismantled about 4 kilometers of track on the Burma-Thailand border. The remaining 310 kilometers in Thailand was sold to the Thailand Railway Company for 1.25 million sterling. Most was lifted, but 140 kilometers was relayed as far as Nam Tok, Tarsao, which is now the terminus for the Death Railway. Here is a group photo of the Allied War Graves Search Team that located 144 cemeteries along the railway and through Thailand and Burma, which held 10,549 Allied POW graves over the period of 25th September to 10th October 1945. Their names are listed below the frame. Allied POWs working on the railway near a trestle bridge. War Graves Search Team members standing before Lin Tin, also known as Rin Ting, Dutch camp. War Graves Search Team recording graves at a Dutch cemetery at Lin Thin, Rin Ting. War Graves Search Team finding boxes of pay books and records for deceased POWs. Another Dutch cemetery along the Thai-Burma Railway. War Graves Search Team recording graves at a British cemetery along the railway. The main cemetery at Chung Kai Hospital Camp. Allied POWs working on the railway. Sir Edward Weary Dunlop before being captured in Java in 1942. The Quiet Lions, shot on location in Thailand, Burma, Australia, and England. It began in 1943. 3 men involved with the Thai-Burma Railway, 1 an Australian surgeon, 1 an Australian machine gunner, and the other a Thai trader. The Quiet Lions details the lives of Weary Dunlop and Thai trader Boon Pong during World War II, and the legacy left in the form of an exchange program that trains young Thai surgeons in Australia. We see how something remarkably positive can be built out of unspeakable horrors. Sir Edward Weary Dunlop, sometime after the war. From horror of war to haven of peace. A wealthy Thai's respect for Weary Dunlop has turned a horror spot on the River Kwai into a haven of remembrance, reports Roy Gibson. A chance meeting 18 years ago on the banks of the River Kwai between former prisoners of war and a millionaire Thai businessman, has led to the creation of a paradise holiday resort and a memorial park in honor of Sir Edward WWII Dunlop. A noted surgeon, WWII Dunlop was a war hero who saved many lives in impossible conditions in the prisoner of war camps in Thailand. He died in 1993, and his ashes were interred at Hellfire Pass. In 1985, a journalist from the West Australian was with a group of 50 former prisoners going upriver in long-tail boats to try to find a camp where they were once held. They mistook the summer house of Canet Wanachote for a riverside cafe and stopped for a beer. Mr. Wanachote was not selling beer. He insisted the journalist, Hugh Schmidt, have a free cold beer. WWII Dunlop, traveling in the next boat, also pulled in to enjoy Mr. Wanachote's hospitality. The two men hit it off instantly, and it was the start of an amazing friendship during the next 8 years. After Sir Edward died in 1993, some of his ashes were floated into the River Kwai from Mr. Wanachote's property. In the 18 years since that first meeting, Mr. Wanachote, who runs a school of English in Bangkok, has spent a small fortune developing his 250-hectare property and caring for local villagers. Now 75, he has no intention of retiring. Members of the Burma-Thailand Railway Memorial Association, which organizes a Quiet Lion Tour each April in honor of Sir Edward, always visit Mr. Wanachote's home, Phu Tui Resort, and are made very welcome by him. For many, like the 83-year-old Bill Haskell of Attadale, that 1985 trip was the first time he had returned to Thailand for 40 years since the end of World War II. This site is only a few kilometers from Hellfire Pass and the Hintok Mountain Camp, where Mr. Haskell and Sir Edward were prisoners. Mr. Wanachote said, "These years seem to pass quickly. I still remember watching the boats stopping and someone asking, 'How much for a glass of beer?' I knew of the railway because it once ran along the front of my property, but I had no particular interest in it. However, I found WWII Dunlop to be a wonderful human being, and he became my personal hero. I think he liked me too." Mr. Haskell said of Mr. Wanachote, "He is just a marvelous man. I have seen this place develop from scratch, so he is obviously wealthy. He just wants to see people happy, and he is like a benevolent grandfather to the local children." The Home Phu Tui Resort has more than 100 air-conditioned rooms scattered in a jungle setting. Many have mountain views and others overlook the River Kwai. The area is perfect for those interested in long walks, hiking, and mountain climbing, while those who prefer to remain within the resort can enjoy the 2 rose-leaf-shaped swimming pools and the gardens. But it is the WWII Dunlop Memorial Park which make Home Phu Tui special. On a ledge carved into a hillside stands an old locomotive and rolling stock. Underneath, railway sleepers have been used to create the words, "The Death Railway, a life for every sleeper." Nearby, a wooden statue of Sir Edward dominates the entrance to a bamboo pavilion packed with photographs, newspaper cuttings, and awards. Another pavilion houses an exhibition of the stark drawings of the prisoner of war Jack Chalker. There is also a model of the River Kwai Bridge which is blown up during an impressive light and sound show. The resort employs 130 people, with many of the workers' families allowed to live on the property. In addition, for the past 20 years, Mr. Wanachote has provided vehicles to get about 40 local children to school each day. The West Australia Weekend Extra, Saturday, October 11th, 2003. Hell's Angel by Keith Flanagan, a POW veteran of the Thai-Burma Railway. 54 years ago, it was a living hell. Today, it is Xanadu on the River Kwai. Kenneth Wanachote, a Thai millionaire with philanthropic tendencies, has created a living paradise only 3 kilometers from Hellfire Pass, the abandoned railway cutting dedicated to the memory of the 13,000 POWs and the estimated 80,000 civilians who died building the Thai-Burma Railway in World War II. Kenneth, owner of an English language school in Bangkok, began to develop his 190-hectare home Phu Dui resort on the Kwai in 1985. Fascinated, as many Thais are by the film The Bridge on the River Kwai, he salvaged an old locomotive and rolling stock and placed them on rails near where the original line had run at the front of his property. Pierre Boille's book and the David Lean film, however, are fiction. Kenneth and his wife Unjai, living in temporary accommodation on a moored houseboat, were to have a real-life encounter with one of the great protagonists in the genuine version of the railway story. Sir Edward Weary Dunlop was coming upriver with former POWs in longtail boats. Journalist Hugh Schmidt, covering the tour for the West Australian, mistook the houseboat for a riverside cafe and moored alongside. So did those following. Delighted by this page from the past landing on his doorstep, Kenneth, the munificent host, plied the Australians with drinks while Kun Unjai whipped up a curry before the party of 51 proceeded on its way. By the time the former POWs brought Weary up again in 1987 to dedicate Hellfire Pass, Kenneth had become a patriarchal figure, employing 60 to 70 locals, building chalets, creating a man-made lake, planting coffee and pineapple plantations, and producing organically grown vegetables. Kenneth invited all 90 of us for a banquet and a sound and light show of the bombing of a model bridge over the River Kwai. It was impressive and startling theater. Weary stayed on after the tour as Kenneth's honored guest, living in the houseboat. For 3 days he lived in the style befitting a man proclaimed by those with him half a century before as the King of the River. A quoter of poetry in the manner of Rumpole of the Old Bailey, he came back with a new version of Coleridge's Xanadu. It now stood, he said, where the sacred river Kwai ran. He gave it as his opinion that the mysterious and enigmatic Kenneth was out of an Arabian Nights adventure. In organizing tours down the Kwai, the former POWs were handing on a legend to a younger generation adrift in a land they considered bereft of heroes. They last took Weary to Thailand in 1991. He was 84, but he stayed behind in Perth to launch a book by a former POW on the night before Anzac Day. He flew through the night to arrive in Bangkok at 2 a.m. and took a 4-hour taxi ride that got him to Hellfire Pass a half an hour before the dawn service. WWII died in July 1993, but his former POW colleagues weren't going to let things end there. They still had a story to tell, and they regarded Canet, with his flair for grand theatre, as the man to help do it. They went back in 1984 after arranging with Canet to float some of WWII's ashes down the Kwai. The boat carrying the ashes was launched at dusk by WWII's sons, Alexander and John. 10 candlelit boats followed, 5 launched by Australians and 5 by Thais. Akemi Hanzawa, a Japanese missionary now living in Washington State, launched 1 Australian boat, a touch WWII would have appreciated. Canet, who has since been made an honorary member of the 2nd of the 3rd Machine Gun Battalion, promised a WWII Dunlop Park on his estate for the next time we came. When we returned in April on the Quiet Lion Tour, 90 of us, including 35 young people aged between 13 and 24, made WWII's Hintok Mountain Camp, the 3 Pagodas Pass on the border, the Hindat Hot Springs, and a trip by houseboats down the river Kwai, whose beauty and serenity belied the tortured past. There was no sign of the promised WWII Dunlop Park until our last evening there, the night before Anzac Day. The night began with the sound and light show. Then the guests followed a trail marked by tiny lights that led past a manned Japanese sentry box into replica POW huts where living patients lay in the darkness. We came out to see a full-scale replica of a bridge that had once stood nearby. On it, in a strobe-lit dreamtime, men worked as some who were watching had done more than 50 years ago. This was the WWII Dunlop Park, overlooked by the locomotive and rolling stock that had stood in front of the estate. The sleepers and rails had been laid on a ledge carved high on the hillside. A wooden statue of WWII, carved by Canet's artisans, was unveiled by his 7-year-old granddaughter, Isabel Dunlop, and Canet's grandchildren. Some of the young contingent that had accompanied us had presented Canet with a peculiarly Australian gift: carved emu eggs from Perenjori, talc rock from Three Springs, plaques from Carnarvon and Exmouth, and a rose bush from the gardens that flank WWII's bronze statue in the Victorian town of Banala. It was a night, a tour, and a story that those there will long remember. Those that organized the tour are planning one for Anzac Day next year, with the hope of taking more young people along. And Canet, the man out of an Arabian Nights adventure, is preparing something new, not to be disclosed until we get there. A map that includes this section of the Burma-Thailand Railway. A display about another war hero named Boon Pong, who was also involved with the Death Railway. Leaving the WWII Dunlop Memorial Pavilion and going toward the next display. Our guide Dan standing near the encroaching jungle growth. Another display building in through the bushes and trees. A monument up one of the paths, representing a lighthouse. On the monument, a lighthouse of sanity in a universe of badness and suffering. Donald Stewart. This monument commemorates the outstanding medical services selflessly provided by the Lieutenant Colonel Edward Weary Dunlop and his fellow doctors and orderlies of the 2nd of the 2nd Casualty Clearing Station of the AIF at nearby Hintok Mountain and river camps during the construction of the Thai-Burma Railway in 1943. The Australian people are deeply indebted to Kunkanit Wanachote of Home Food Tui and the Thai nation for their magnificent cooperation in establishing this monument, and for their hearts of gold in helping us to alleviate our deep-rooted suffering and allowing us to share the happiness of this beautiful country. And this path leads to the locomotive. The front of the locomotive, slowly rusting away. The entrance to the crew compartment. Yasuko inside the crew compartment, looking into the control mechanisms and fuel intake hole. A look at the undercarriage of the rolling stock. Further down the train with a view from the boxcar. Looking at the rolling stock from the engine. A bit of graffiti with a few inaccuracies and politically sensitive sentiments. The train display from the lower level of the museum area, encompassing the full length of the train. The letters in front read the Death Railway. From the train, we see more of the display buildings. There are several display buildings here. Passing a display building. The way to the World War II hospital camp. The entrance to the hospital camp building. A corporate magic. The dramatic truth is the way the whole stricken force, directed by medical men, pooled their skills and ebbing energy to produce a jungle miracle. Out of nothing, they created hospitals, surgical alcohol. The only antiseptic for operations came from waste rice, a yeast culture, a condenser made of old milk tins. Animal peritoneum was stripped into layers for sutures. A stolen copper petrol pipe coiled through a bamboo water jacket produced distilled water when cholera raged. Rough salt, crystallized and recrystallized, was added for the intravenous solution, fed into dehydrated bodies through drip sets made up of sake, dead Marines, and stethoscope tubing. Pulleys were carved by hand for orthopedic beds made of bamboo. A mahjong piece became an artificial eye. Water bottles became ileostomy containers after bypass operations to rest diseased bowels. Amputees made artificial legs from jungle timber, fully articulated and professional with hand-carved swivel joints. Pack webbing, padded with jungle kapok, formed baskets for the stumps. Bamboo, tin, old nails, plastic, scraps of all kinds were fashioned into sophisticated medical equipment. British hospital artist Jack Chalker summed it up. This enterprise and fusion of skills was, to me, a magic corporate basis for survival, and I found such ingenuity not only absorbing, but a salutary reflection on human resilience and endeavor. Chung Kai Hospital Camp Operating Theater. A bamboo structure covered with mosquito netting. Colonel E. Dunlop, AAMC, facing, with Captain Markowitz back to us, operating. a thigh amputation. A replica operating table. A therapeutic chair made of bamboo. Artificial limbs. This drawing demonstrates the improvisation and development of the artificial limbs to the stage that flexible joints were included in the design. There were over 1,000 leg amputations resulting from the degeneration of a tropical ulcer to the state where amputation was the only option left for the doctor to save the man's life. The chance of surviving an amputation was less than 20%. Not a drawing. Here are a few actual prosthetics that were used by the POWs. Physiotherapy apparatus. The incredible suffering inflicted upon some POWs meant that after the railway was completed, they could do little else but fight for their own survival. Once again, the ingenuity of medical staff and technicians, along with the greater availability of materials, enabled elaborate equipment to be made to assist with the rehabilitation of patients at Nakorn Pathom. A better look at the example apparatus display. Hospital treatment beds. The next display board with more information about the workings of these makeshift hospitals. The water condenser still at the Hintok camp in 1943. Hollow bamboo water jacket with boiled bamboo ends drilled for copper pipe stopped at both ends using clay molding. Continuous copper pipe inside the bamboo water jacket. Split bamboo half as water discharge. Copper pipe discharge for distilled water from truck fuel line. Bamboo support structure. Bamboo water jacket. Hollow bamboo water supply line from dam to water jacket. Copper pipe stream intake from truck fuel line. Water container made from 4-gallon petrol container. Earth and mud fireplace below. Bamboo bench top. Notes. All bamboo joints are bound with twine. 2. Copper pipe 10 mm diameter fuel line from truck. 3. Bamboo water jacket joints sealed with previously boiled rags. 4. Water supply from dam via hollow bamboo pipe with clay packed joints. Note that a hardwood sapling had been used to break down the partitions between the bamboo segments. 5. A dam created by the fast-flowing brook that had been breached by a dam of earth and rubble to provide water for cooking. 6. A 1-liter sake bottle was used to capture the distilled water. This was kept in a boiling water bath. The next information board. Man seems to be still far too intelligent an animal to realize that happiness comes from harmonious relations with one's fellows and service to mankind, rather than in a dirty, unprincipled, self-seeking existence. This is from the War Diaries of Weary Dunlop, Connew Camp, 28th February, 1943. A sketch showing POW patients under rehabilitation. Various makeshift medical equipment. A POW patient undergoing treatment. An assortment of artificial limbs created by the POWs at the hospital camps. A POW patient undergoing rehabilitation treatment. An assortment of makeshift medical equipment. A diagram showing how POW patients' legs were put into traction. A diagram for the construction of an artificial leg for Chung Kai Hospital Camp in 1944. Sorbo rubber, cloth recovered. Buffalo hide. Canvas from a kit bag with leather insert. A single length of bamboo cut to provide 3 struts. Exiting the hospital display building, we find a length of original sleepers and rails from nearby. The next display building, titled the Death Railway. Thailand at war. In the early hours of 8th December 1941, Japan stunned the world by swift attacks on several countries in Southeast Asia and Pearl Harbor in the USA. The following are the historic events of the Second World War. The information board titled The Need for Japanese to Construct the Railroad Tract. We will look at the English part. This information and much of the rest of the displays are written in the grammar and spelling of a Thai person. The need for Japanese to construct the railroad tract. The Japanese troops landed in Thailand for one purpose: wanted to pass through to Burma and India, respectively. At first, taking Khor Song, or Victoria Point, and Ranong City. Japan just needed to use and control it as the route of delivery, war supplies, and food into Burma, Singapore, and Malaga. But this route was too risky. If the Allies, having more manpower and weapons, would attack and block the route by using submarines and air raids, the land convoy could be done only through Tark City in Malameng in Burma, which was not enough. Therefore, it would be appropriate to construct the new route to Burma at the right time. The railroad tract connected between Thailand and Burma was set to be constructed. Using the shortcut route was plot to go between Kanchanaburi and Burma through Three Pagodas Pass, which is the border. The Japanese army asked permission from the Thai government to construct the railroad tract. After the Thai government had put it through consultation with the committees, the agreement to construction was signed and endorsed by General P. Pibom Songkram, the Supreme Army Commander from Thailand, and General Zegli Poria, the representative from Japan, on September 16, 1941. The contract was composed of 5 segments as followed. Thailand, number 1, Thailand will provide and construct the first 60 kilometers from Nong Pladok Station, Ban Pung District, Kanchanaburi City, to the city limit of Kanchanaburi. The rest of the distance going into Burma would be on Japan's management, assisted by Thailand. 2. The construction of the tract would be done and inspected by Japanese Army, but laborers would be provided by Thailand. 3. Thailand would provide equipment needed for construction, such as beams, telephone poles, cement, and sand, under command and control of Japan. 4. To make the announcement for land surrender to the Thai government must be made clearly. 5. Thailand would build railway stations and steam engine warehouse with financial funding provided by Japan. This railroad was ramped off from the old Southern Railroad at Ban Nung Pladok Station, Ban Pong Station, Ratchaburi City, at the 64 by 196th kilometer. It was a single tract, being 1 meter width and going along the Mai Klong River, heading north to Kanchanaburi. To make the railroad tract constructed faster, The Japanese army divided the laborers into two groups, constructing from 2 points to meet in the halfway. The railroad was first started in October of 1942 and set to be done by August 1943, but it had to be postponed to November 1943. As a matter of fact, the railroad tracks construction was actually done on October 17, 1943. The official announcement to open this railroad track was made on October 25, 1943. The total distance is 415 kilometers. 303.95 kilometers is in Thailand, and 111.05 kilometers is in Burma. The total of 176,000 laborers were involved in the railroad construction. 15,000 Japanese, 30,000 English prisoners of war, 18,000 Dutch prisoners of war, 13,000 Australian prisoners of war. The total of deaths in that railroad construction from both diseased and air raids. The map of the Thailand-Burma Death Railway in Thai language. Allied troops surrendering in Singapore, making the bulk of the labor force for the railway. An assortment of photographs about the construction of the railway. POWs carrying wooden sleepers prior to the tracks being laid. An aerial photograph of the 2 bridges at Kanchanaburi. A timber trestle bridge. A war grave search team recovered this picture along with army pay books. And more detail of the trestle bridge. A group of amputees, which were sometimes called wingies. Legs had to be removed due to severe infections from tropical ulcers. The next information board, the bridge over the Kwai River. The bridge over the Kwai River. When the construction of the railroad track had reached the point where they had to cross the Kwai Yai River, the Japanese army selected Bantamakam to be the spot to construct, for this point has been the most steadiest foundation. At first, they built the wooden bridge just to carry over some war supply when the tide of water level went down at the end of November 1942. It took 3 months to finish, February 1943. After that, they started to construct a permanent bridge right the way, having concrete iron supported foundation constructed in the middle of the river. There were 11 parts of iron bridges, which each part was 20.80 meters long. They built wooden bridge on the west side along with the concrete iron bridge. The concrete bridge was done in September, taking 7 months of construction. When the permanent bridge had been finished, the Thai government requested to have the wooden bridge taken down since it was low and close to the water level and blocked the water traffic. The Japanese eventually did as it was requested. The prisoners of war during the railroad track construction. Most of the prisoners of war assigned by the Japanese to labor on the railroad track construction were the Allies surrendered during the Pacific War during 1942 to 1945. They were taken from Indonesia, Singapore, and Hong Kong. There were 30,000 British, 18,000 Dutch, 13,000 Australians, and 700 Americans. Living condition of the prisoners of war. Prior to the construction of the railroad track, the prisoners' camp and shelters must be built. They assigned them to build the Japanese camp first, then kitchen, prisoner camp later on, and the infirmary was the last. The first camp was in Ban Pung, Ratchaburi, but it became the target for heavy air raids. They finally moved to build in Kanchanaburi instead. They built many more along the railroad track. At first, it was not too hard for prisoners of war to live, as they were allowed to come in town and Buddha's temples looking for food and supplies. But later on, it became harder when the Japanese rushed the constructing process. The prisoners of war and laborers were forced to move deeper into the jungle. They had to hike on trail, lacking of food, bad weather, and diseases. Malaria, diarrhea, plagues. Lots of prisoners of war and laborers were afflicted and died there. The construction of the bridge. The full text on the information board. The construction of the bridge. When the railroad track construction had come to the spot where they had to build the bridge, the Japanese army chose the Bantamakum area, 2 kilometers north of Kanchanaburi, because the soil was steady and firm. The prisoners of war were commanded to do the task. First, to build the temporary wooden bridge for supplying construction materials, then the real one, the iron bridge. The wooden bridge, located about 100 meters south of today's iron bridge, was first started to build at the low tide near the end of November 1942, and it was taken 3 months of construction, which was done in February 1943. The concrete iron supported foundation of the real bridge, or the iron bridge, was constructed in the middle of the river, supporting 11 blocks of iron bridge, which each block is 20.80 meters long. It was connected to the wooden bridge on the west side. The construction of the bridge was started in February 1943, having the iron frame delivered by ships from Java. Connected together by the prisoners, the bridge was completely done in September 1943, taking 7 months altogether. The Thai government requested the Japanese to tear down the wooden one, since it blocked the water traffic. However, the Japanese agreed to do so. The construction of the entrance to the steel bridge. Steel bridge from Java by use of Japanese for use across the Mekong River, now River Kwai Yai. Construction of the steel bridge over the River Kwai. Construction of the steel and concrete bridge at Tamariam across the Mekong River in 1943. The so-called bridge over the River Kwai from the Hollywood movie. Allied POWs carrying equipment along a jungle road during the construction of the railroad. A further wall of photographs from the Death Railway construction period. Japanese engineers and guards watching over POWs carrying wooden beams during the construction of the railway. A train station along the railway with Japanese signs. Japanese vehicles and troops crossing the wooden road bridge with Allied POWs watching nearby at Kanchanaburi. Another Japanese railway station along the Death Railway. The 3 pagodas at the 3 Pagodas Pass at the Thailand-Burma border. The main cemetery for POWs at Kanchanaburi before it being remade to its present form. POWs at one of the jungle camps. Another picture of POWs in a camp. POWs in a barracks hut. A sketch of POWs working on a railway cutting. The attacking of the Allies. The United States of America established the new Air Force unit in Chongqing City, Chongqing, in China, as the air-based quarter attacking the targets in Thailand. The Air Force base composed of B-24s and B-29s assigned to attack targets in Thailand starting on May 3rd, 1944. 9:20 a.m., May 3rd, 1944. 2 airplanes attacking Nong Pladuk Station. 00:20 a.m., September 7th, 1944. 12 airplanes attacking Nong Pladuk Station. 10 a.m., September 10th, 1944. 5 airplanes flew circling Kanchanaburi. 0:20 a.m., September 17th, 1944. 12 airplanes attacking Nong Pladuk Station. November 3rd, 1944. Air raid over bridge over the Kwai River. November 28th, 1944. The middle part of the bridge was hit. 5 p.m., November 29th, 1944. 24 airplanes bombed, burning the Japanese camp. December 3rd, 1944. Bombing Nong Pladuk Station. 4:30 p.m., December 8th, 1944. 8 airplanes bombed Man Ta Sao Sai Yoke District. 3:30 p.m., December 10th, 1944. Bombing Ban Yong Wai and Banta Sao at Sayoke. 10 a.m., December 11th, 1944. 16 airplanes bombed Ban Wang Yai at Sayoke. 4:40 p.m., December 12th, 1944. 3 airplanes bombed Japanese camp and steam engine warehouse at Tam Muong. 0800 a.m., February 7th, 1945. Bombing Japanese camp at Kanchanaburi. 08:45 a.m., March 22nd, 1945. Bombing and air-raided Japanese camp at Kanchanaburi. 10 a.m., April 7th, 1945. 11 airplanes attacking Japanese camp at Kanchanaburi. Japanese time, August 1945, August 15th, 1945. Japanese army surrendered to the Allies. A B-24 Liberator on a mission. Allied aircraft over Thailand. The bridge on the River Kwai at Kanchanaburi after getting hit with the Akom-2 guided bomb. To cut off Japanese transportation and supply, the Allies started to hit the bridge heavily with bombing and air raids began on November 3rd, 1944. It took many times until eventually on November 28th, 1944, the middle part of the bridge was severely damaged. The Japanese did not give up, but to use the water transportation temporarily while they were trying to fix the bridge, which finally was able to be used once more. At the end of the war, the Thai government did talk to the United Kingdom, asking to buy back the railroad track and the bridge for the price of £1,500,000, or 50 million bahts. The next board, historical evidences. Historical evidences. Number 1, the Allies Cemetery, or the UK Cemetery, built under the agreement of the Thai government and the Allies after the World War II had been ended. There are 2 places. 1.1, the cemetery at Kanchanaburi, Western People's Cemetery, at Ban Dong Ruk in the city limit, 6,982 bodies. 1.2, Chong Kai Cemetery, located at Bang Khao Pun, Lin Chang locality, city. Limit, Kanchanaburi. This place was the campsite during the war. 1,740 bodies. The bridge over the Kwai River, the Forever Bridge, located on the banks of the Kwai Yai River, Ban Ma Kam, in the city limit. The Thai Ya Nu Sorn Monument, located nearby the bridge over the Kwai River, built by the Japanese Army during the war and opened on March 12, 1944, to declare the merit and dignity of the prisoners of war and the laborers who passed away during the construction, has been symbolized as a spiritual shrine in worshipping the souls of the deaths. 4. Dead Curve, or Krasade Cave, located at Krasade Cave along the bank of the Kwa Noi River, Bane Hid Sayoke. It took 17 days to finish the 400 meters long railway tract with 2,000 laborers constructed from the place once was the deep jungle on the steep hill by the water. 5. Trong Khao Card, or Hellfire Pass, located at the pasture zone in Sayoke. This was in the responsibility of Australian prisoners of war, whom were assigned to blow off some part of the cliff for laying the railroad track. It took 12 weeks to work days and nights without resting. 6. Sayoke Camp, located at the Sayoke Yai waterfall area by the water. The mound where the station, 168 kilometers, was located. The mound of old coal and cooking stove are still existed on nowadays. 7. The existence of railroad track at the Three Pagodas Pass, located at Honglu, Sankaburi district, the last railroad station in the Thai territory. Hellfire Pass, several decades ago. More of Hellfire Pass, several decades ago. Railroad track construction. Labor recruitment for the railroad track construction. Recruitment meaning recruitment. Since the Japanese was urgent to finish the railroad track construction with limited time frame, a great number of laborers, as many as 13,000 people from Malaya, India, Java, Burma, and Thailand, were recruited to the first phase of construction, preparing cement and rock for pavement. The Thai government hesitated to have Thai people laboring with Japanese to avoid possible conflicts. At first, the job was also opened for Thai people from nearby provinces such as Kanchanaburi, Ratchaburi, Nakhon Pratom, and Phetchaburi. But later on, they looked for the immigrants, such as Chinese people, to do the works. The government contacted the Chinese Commercial Chamber to make advertisement to their people. Then they were able to collect 36,000 Chinese working laborers from Ayutthaya, Chonburi, Cha Cheng San, Prajanaburi, and Sa Mut Sang Kram for the working site. Those laborers whom were put to work so hard sometimes left the job, but the Japanese encouraged them to stay by providing them drugs. Therefore, 80% of laborers were addicted to opium. However, nothing the Thai government could do about it. A train filled with forced laborers. Civilian forced laborers working at loading supplies on and off boxcars. Civilian forced laborers. Sari Thai, the Underground Army. The contract which General Pibun Song Kram signed on December 8, 1941. To go side by side for war with Japan, allowing Japan to have access power over Thailand, was greatly confusing to Thai people. There were groups of Thais who disagreed with that paper, mobbed up, establishing underground army our underground armies to fight against Japanese later on. There were two major groups of those armies. From inside the country was called the Undergrounded Army, led by Dr. Pridi Panomyong, and from the foreign land, America and England, led by the royalty Se Ni Pramote, calling themselves Independent Thais, or Thai Serai, or Serai. Later on, when the two were combined, the new name, Serai Thai, Underground, was given. The missions of the Serai Thai within the country were gathering news from the enemy side, manpower, economic, strategy, and tactics. 2. Cutting down the enemy supply as much as possible, but avoid to get caught. The Allies from out there could not do anything to help if there was any mistake. 3. Trying to help the Allies if they get caught, and those who had to land in case of emergency. 4. The telecommunication was to be done according to the secret coded signal given by the U.S. only. 5. To let the Thai Air Force construct at least 2 confidential airports in Northeast, capable to have Dakota airplanes landed, supplying American people for the future. 6. To let Thai people get out from the area when air raided by Allies was going to happen. The Serai Thai within the country was well supported by America and England. There were 24 units of arms practice and battle tactics training camps. The United States provided 13 units: Phetchaburi, Ratchaburi, Prajanaburi, Antong, Ayutthaya, Chachoengsao, Sukhothai, Prare, Kanchanaburi, Utaitani, Sanyapum, Sopunburi, Samut Songkhram. England provided 11 units: Bangkok, Nakhon Tamarat, Chomporn, Prachuap Khiri Khan, Mahasarakam, Sakunakorn, Ubon Ratchathani, Nakorn Ratchatsima, Li Ai, Ranong, and Korn Khan. The Serai Thai was composed of Thai people from varied occupations: school teachers, government officers, college students, school students. There were at least 500 volunteers in each unit. The different kinds of training, such as the use of varied arms firearm training, discipline, scouting, were given for trainees to be ready in attacking and assisting the Allies in battles. The Serai Thai in Kanchanaburi. The Serai Thai in Kanchanaburi contacted directly with the OSS, the War Secret Agency in Canby City, Sri Lanka, was under the assisting of the United States. There were 3 Serai Thai camps located in Phnom Tuang district. The headquarters was in Ban Nong Ka Bot, while the other 2 were located in Khao Jum Sin village and Sa Long Ray locality. Majority of the Serai Thai in Kanchanaburi were school teachers because during the year 1944 there was no school. The males would go for firearms training, and the females would go for cooking. The Serai Thai in Kanchanaburi did not take much action since the war was ended sooner. They were honored to march along with the others in Bangkok too. The next information panel, titled The End of the War. The end of the war. The United States dropped the first atomic bomb on Hiroshima, killing over 118,000 civilians on August 6, 1945. Furthermore, the United States dropped the second atomic bomb over Nagasaki, killing over 100,000 people more on August 9th, 1945. At noon, the local time in Japan, on August 15th, 1945, the Tokyo radio station made official announcement, the word from the Emperor of Japan, declaring that Japan was unconditionally surrendered to the Allies. He asked his soldiers to yield and give up weapons. After the Japanese troops had surrendered, the prisoners of war gathered Japanese soldiers and locked them up, detaining in the prisoners' camp in return. The Allies honored the prisoners of war with dignity, providing uniforms, decorations, and food by air cargo. They sent Japanese troops to Bangkok by train. When the war was completely over, 32 high-ranked Japanese officers were sentenced and executed due to the crimes they had committed against the prisoners. POWs working on clothing in one of the camps. POWs getting water in a camp. The next information board, the Jack Chalker Collection. The Jack Chalker Collection. Jack Bridger Chalker served as a gunner in the British Army during the Battle for Singapore. He was taken prisoner by the Japanese and interned initially in the Changi camp and later in the Havelock Road prison camp, Singapore. He was moved into Thailand in October 1942 to work on the Burma-Thailand Railway project. He worked on the southern end of the railway line from camps at Kon Yu and Chung Kai before transferring to the huge hospital camp at Nakorn Pathom. Chalker was an accomplished artist and throughout his internment as a prisoner of war recorded his impressions in a large number of sketches and drawings, many of which are reproduced in this display. It was always a problem for him to obtain sketching paper and material, and to protect his works from the ravages of the weather and the insects. It was imperative that his sketches be concealed from the Japanese, as many of them placed his captors in a very poor light. Some of Chalker's best sketches were made in hospital camps on surgical procedures, appliances, prosthesis items. It was frequently necessary for surgeons to perform unorthodox operations. Chalker was on hand to record these events in accurate sketches. Post-World War II, Chalker returned to England and established himself as a professional artist, tutor, and consultant of great repute. He still maintains a studio delightfully situated on a stream at Wells in Somerset. During his work at hospital camps in Thailand, Chalker developed a wonderful liaison with the famous surgeon Sir Edward Weary Dunlop, and this friendship continued until Sir Edward's death in 1993. Chalker and Sir Edward Dunlop made two nostalgic visits to Thailand in 1985 and 1987. On these two occasions, they met and formed a firm friendship with Kun Kane Wanachote and his wife Kun Unjai of Hom Fu Tui Resort in Sayok, Thailand. When Sir Edward died in 1993, Kun Kanet established a memorial park in his honor at Hom Fu Tui Resort. Simultaneously, Jack Chalker further extended the prestige of the park by giving Kun Kanet the reproductions of this exhibition. The hallmark of the exhibition occurred on the 20th of October 2000, when Her Royal Highness Princess Galyani Vadhana graciously opened the exhibition at Hom Fu Tui. A Chalker painting of POWs driving spikes by sledgehammers into rocks to prepare for explosives in the construction of a railroad cutting. A Chalker painting of POWs carrying construction supplies, likely concrete, to a construction site. A chalker painting of POWs in a tent in one of the many construction camps. A chalker painting of POWs bringing their dead comrades to a burial site, while others are being cremated in a large fire behind them. Large walk. This large walk was found at the site of one of the POW camps in the Hintok area, which would have been used in one of the camp cooking areas to prepare food for hundreds of men. The last displays. A thankful welcome to the English teachers for love and help given to their students. God bless you. This board contains a collection of Jack Chalker sketches and paintings. Here is Yasko.